pray that you bless even those that are taking actions to stop these things, and you give them reinforcement and give them necessary resources to do it. My God, we believe you to do these things, and we ask for your help. We know with you all things are possible. There's nothing that you cannot do. So we believe you to move forward for us and bless this proceedings and cause the activities that we have them to be effective and successful. We believe you to do this, and we touch you in the way that it will be done by faith in you. In the name of Jesus Christ, and we are touching everybody saying, Amen.
Please remain standing for the national anthem. Prevention and response. Good morning. I am pleased on behalf of the Department of Labor and Gender Affairs to greet and welcome you to the launch of the St. Lucia's observance of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. For us at the Department of Labor and Gender Affairs, the launch of 16 days is not a celebration. It is a somber reminder that there's work still to be done. Your presence here today underscores this fact. As long as sexual and gender-based violence continues, there is work to be done. Today is also recognized as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women in honor of 3 Mirabal sisters, political activists from the Dominican Republic, who were assassinated on November 20, 1960. The first recognition of International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women was in November of 1999. An international recognition was given to this day in February 2000 in the UN Resolution 54134. Our vision is a future in which there is no gender-based violence. In the words of the Belém-do Convention, our goal is to prevent, punish, and eradicate all forms of gender-based violence. This year's theme it is in response to the first action articulated in the Beijing +13 Action Agenda for all women and girls. As we contemplate on the theme, Unite to End Digital Violence Against Women and Girls, we must first acknowledge that digital violence is a new but rapidly growing threat that disproportionately affects women and girls. We also need to acknowledge that it is only a new expression of an old problem. Gender-based violence is not abated. It has not been abated in 30 years, even with all the advancement in women's health and education. Without prevalence data, it is difficult to determine whether the average of 230 cases of domestic violence or 300 cases of sexual assault and 200 cases of child abuse is a reflection of prevalence or sensitization to reporting. As it relates to reporting, there is another emerging reality that we must pay close attention to. GBV service providers have observed an increase in reports of various forms of abuse from younger persons, including men and boys. In fact, one of the leading NGOs in St. Lucia providing services for gender-based violence is producing data that suggests that more men than women have been accessing counseling and other forms of psychosocial support services for abuse in the last year. They are also producing data that suggests that there is a wider range of types of abuse reported. These findings validate the need to have broadened the definition of domestic violence in the Domestic Violence Act of 2022. One such form of abuse is digital violence or technology-facilitated violence. This year's theme raises awareness of technology-facilitated forms of gender-based violence as a problem. It is a call to sensitize the public on the legal protections already contained in law against acts of digital violence, such as unauthorized access to computer data, unauthorized modification of data, unauthorized disclosure of passwords, misuse of devices, interception of computer services, damaging or denying access to computer systems, all contained in the Computer Misuse Act of 2011. The protection from cyber stalking contained in the Domestic Violence Act of 2022, and the further provisions proposed in the Electronic Crimes Bill. Digital violence happens within the broader context of gender-based violence generally. The observance of 16 days, therefore, also presents an opportunity to highlight progress made on coordination of GBV services in the health, policing, justice, and social sectors, and emphasize prevention through youth leadership and education. The work undertaken by the National Interagency Task Force for GBV Prevention and Response is responding to the gaps that have been observed and lamented in coordination. Their work in empowering actors and the general public should also extend to protection from digital violence. But I urge you to also keep an open eye for technological solutions to ending gender-based violence. It is a great time for innovation. As you listen to the other speakers today, I want you to keep in mind that you are part of the solution. Insights obtained today may just empower you to get to act in your own way, in your own space, to do the little that you can do to change things. Gender-based violence cannot be allowed to continue unabated. It must end. But the call to end is a call to everyone to play their part. In raising awareness, doing something if you see something, providing a safe space, reporting, creating services to increase access to justice. These are but a few of the things that we can do, individually and collectively. To the National Interagency Task Force for GBV Prevention and Response, and to all of you who have prioritized your attendance at this launch event, we offer our deepest gratitude. We are in this fight together. When we work together, we send a message to the perpetrators of violence that there are no loopholes. We also send a very powerful message to victims or survivors and those at risk that you are supported and that you deserve and can access justice. As a signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, actually, to welcome to the podium an officer who has been with the Department of Gender Affairs, the Division of Gender Affairs, in the last year and a half, and who has been an addition to the team that just can't be taken away. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the podium Ms. Sasha Harris, who is the Build Back Equal Project Coordination Analyst.
Thank you so much, Janie. What a full house we have this morning. And I may be filling your ears a bit more. Society development agencies, youth organizations, the media, to every advocate who continues to champion the rights, safety, and dignity of women and girls. Today, St. Lucia joins the global community in launching the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, a campaign that has, for more than 3 decades, united millions of voices in the call to end the most pervasive human rights violation in the world, and that is violence against women and girls. This year's Global Unite theme, Unite to End Digital Violence Against Women and Girls, is both timely as well as urgent. As technology reshapes our societies, it is also reshaping the ways in which violence occurs. From image-based abuse, deepfake pornography, to online stalking, harassment, gender disinformation, private leaking of information, and the rise of toxic online spaces such as the manosphere, digital violence has become one of the fastest growing forms of harm faced by women and girls worldwide. Women in public life, including journalists, politicians, activists, and human rights defenders, are increasingly targeted by coordinated digital attacks that seek to silence them and push them out of leadership, with young women and girls who navigate digital environments daily also plagued by similar risks. We know that digital violence is not a virtual problem. It is a real, and it has real-world consequences, including mental health impacts, online and offline isolation, humiliation, coercive control, physical violence, and in the worst-case scenarios, femicide-related suicide. It undermines women's access to economic opportunities, their political participation, and their basic right to online safety as well as safety offline. In St. Lucia, these global concerns intersect with national realities. We continue to confront persistent forms of gender-based violence affecting women across communities. Caribbean statistics show, and Jeannie would have highlighted a few, that 1 in 3 women have experienced domestic violence, and nearly half have suffered at least one form of intimate partner violence in their lifetimes. While St. Lucia relies heavily on police and media reports, as Jeannie would have also mentioned prior to me, there is a need for dedicated national prevalence surveys, which remain essential to fully understand the scale, the cost, and the drivers of violence. Notwithstanding this, we very much can recognize and laud the important progress that St. Lucia has made in its fight against gender-based violence, namely through the enactment of one of the Caribbean's most progressive domestic violence acts in 2022, which expands protections across all forms of abuse, including economic, emotional, sexual, and digital. Under the Build Back Equal project, implemented jointly by UN Women and UNFPA, St. Lucia would have launched its first national interagency GBV Prevention and Response Task Force, and it's important to note that the Build Back Equal project is funded in part by the Government of Canada. The GBV, the National Interagency GBV Prevention and Response Task Force, as Jeannie would have also highlighted, brings together health, justice, policing, and social service actors under a single coordination framework. UN Women through the Build Back Equal project also stands alongside the Caribbean Development Bank and the Division of Gender Affairs in the implementation of the Center for Support and Referral project, committing to strengthening the institutional capacity of GBV instruments, of GBV prevention and response service providers through the development of legal and policy instruments, as well as intra-agency protocols and operation manuals with corresponding training. By establishing a coordinated survivor-centered model of care, the Center for Support and Referral, or the One-Stop Center, will give effect to the Beijing Platform for Action's call to integrated national mechanisms to prevent and respond to violence against women. It will also operationalize SDG 5.2 by working to eliminate all forms of violence in both public and private spheres, and will contribute to SDG 5C1 through institutionalizing policies and resources that strengthen accountability. At the same time, with the launch of the One-Stop Center, we are anticipating that it would reinforce the protection pillar of women's peace and security in St. Lucia, ensuring that women and girls can access comprehensive right-based services in times of crisis and insecurity. These reforms, structures, and partnerships demonstrate a clear national commitment to preventing and responding to GBV in all of its forms, including violence that is amplified in digital spaces. As we begin the 16 Days campaign, we do so with a united purpose, to ensure that women and girls in St. Lucia can live, learn, work, and lead safely across both physical and digital worlds. This requires action on multiple fronts, strengthening legal and policy frameworks to address digital abuse and ensure accountability to perpetrators, equipping law enforcement and justice sectors with tools and training needed to investigate, prosecute technology-facilitated violence, ensuring access to the survivor-centered trauma-informed services, including online reporting tools and specialized psychosocial support, promoting digital literacy and resilience, particularly among young women and girls, and among those with limited access to secure digital technologies, holding technology companies accountable for safe platform design, transparency, and responsible content moderation, and engaging men and boys, influencers, youth leaders, and public figures to counter online misogyny and harmful masculinities. And finally, supporting feminist organizations and frontline responders whose leadership remains central to advancing change. To this end, we are pleased to partner with the Division of Gender Affairs in the implementation of a gender-responsive policing training for police officers. This training will respond directly to the Global Unite campaign's priority to strengthen law enforcement capacities to address technology-facilitated violence against women and girls. It also aligns with global commitments under the Beijing Plus 30 Platform for Action, CSW 70, and the UN High-Level Network of Gender-Responsive Policing. While we may only be able to introduce this training series given current events, we anticipate a more fulsome course in early 2026. And the training will benefit police officers by enhancing their understanding of GBV, including digital and technology-facilitated forms, strengthening skills for trauma-informed survivor-centered interviewing, improving evidence collection for online abuse and cyber-enabled crimes, clarifying legal frameworks, reporting pathways, and digital forensic considerations, expanding officers' ability to protect women in public life and vulnerable groups targeted online, and supporting safer community policing practices, as well as building trust with survivors. This is a major step towards strengthening justice, ending impunity, and ensuring that perpetrators, whether online or offline, are held accountable. I would like to encourage all of us to use these 16 days not only as a period of awareness, but also as a catalyst for sustained action. Let us challenge harmful narratives, support survivors with compassion, and create digital spaces where women's voices are celebrated and not silenced. To every partner here today, government, civil society, media, academia, youth organizations, and development allies, your leadership remains vital. Ending violence against women and girls is not the responsibility of one institution. It is a collective responsibility that requires unity, courage, unwavering commitment to ensure that every woman and girl has the right to live free from fear, are violent and free to participate fully in all spheres of life, and we can only do so if we do so together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sasha, and for the encouraging words in reference to our charge. It's really a call to action from the UN system. And thanks to the UN system for the Unite campaign that has been going for so long. So could somebody tell me, do you know what the color for the Unite campaign is? Any violence against women, anybody? Orange. Orange. Am I wearing purple today? Because today is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. Okay, so the activities that Sasha has charged you to do during the 16 days of activism, ensure that you bring a little color of orange during the implementation of these various activities. Alright? So thank you very much again, Sasha, for these very inspiring remarks. Right now I'd like to call on the project manager for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project in the Department of Public Service, Mrs. Sherilyn Monrose Gustav, who's going to speak to us very broadly about digital technology. So, everybody please.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, protocol being established, good morning. It is an honor to join you as you observe the global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, an initiative championed by UN Women and embraced by governments and communities around the world. Today I speak to you on behalf of the Division of Public Sector Modernization within the Department of Public Service, which is a unit responsible for leading St. Lucia's transformation towards a modern, efficient, and people-centered public service. At the DPSM, our mandate extends far beyond digitizing services or improving processes. We are reshaping how government uses technology, data, and innovation to address real-life societal challenges. And few challenges are more urgent or more deserving of our attention than violence against women and girls. Gender-based violence remains one of the most pervasive human rights violations of our time. It erodes dignity, safety, confidence, and economic independence. It fractures families and weakens our communities. But today, in this era of digital transformation, we have powerful new tools to confront this issue in smarter, more coordinated, and more impactful ways. Modern digital tools gives us new ways to identify risk, respond quickly, and support victims. Some of which include mobile reporting apps and online portals that allow survivors to seek help discreetly. Integrated government data systems that detect patterns, map incidents, and respond proactively. Real-time dashboards that help decision makers allocate social services and security resources effectively. Technology can also bridge the gap between survivors and the help that they need, to include online counseling and psychological support, emergency helplines with chat, SMS, and geolocation, digital mapping of safe spaces, and platforms which connect survivors with justice, shelters, and essential services. Right here in St. Lucia, many of these digital safety initiatives are already underway for the combined efforts of the DPSM and the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. At present, the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project's National Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Public Awareness Campaign, which is currently underway, seeks to equip citizens with the knowledge and the tools to remain safe online. This campaign seeks to raise public awareness of risks such as phishing, fraud, scams, and cyberbullying, promote protective behavior such as strong passwords, two-factor authentication, and safe browsing, provide tailored education for vulnerable groups including youth, women, seniors, MSMEs, and rural communities, and build trust by positioning ICT units, our cyber incident response teams, and our law enforcement as reliable defenders of digital safety. A key sub-initiative of this campaign is called Safe Her Online, and it focuses specifically on women and girls. It addresses digital gender-based violence, promotes respectful online behavior, strengthens digital resilience, and empowers women to participate confidently and safely in digital spaces. These efforts demonstrate our commitment to ensuring that as St. Lucia modernizes, every woman and every girl can benefit from a secure, inclusive, and empowering digital environment. And of course, education remains one of the strongest weapons against gender-based violence. Prevented violence also means empowering women to be independent, informed, and digitally capable. DPSM, in partnership with the Caribbean Digital Transformation through our ICT modernization agenda, is supporting digital literacy programs for women and girls, skills development to strengthen employability and financial independence, and access to devices, connectivities, and safe online platforms. A more digitally included woman is a more empowered woman, and empowerment is one of the strongest deterrents to violence. We also recognize that the digital world presents risks: cyberbullying, stalking, harassment, and online exploitation. And this is why work has begun to strengthen the areas of cybersecurity, data protection, online safety education, policies, and protocols that safeguard vulnerable groups. But it is important to emphasize that technology itself is not the enemy. When used responsibly, intentionally, and safely, technology can become one of our greatest allies. It gives women tools to protect themselves, platforms to seek help, and opportunities to connect, learn, work, and thrive. Technology can shine a light where silence once lived, and it can empower action where fear wants to hold. Digital transformation must always be safe transformation, but it is also a path to protection, empowerment, and prevention. As we participate in the 16 days of activism, let us reaffirm our commitment to building a society where digital transformation is not only about efficiency, but about equity, safety, and protection. Together, we can leverage technology not only for modernization, but for protection, empowerment, and justice. Let us commit to a St. Lucia where every woman and every girl, online and offline, is safe, supported, and empowered to live free from violence. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gustav. How many of you knew that St. Lucia already was doing so much to protect women and girls from digital violence? Okay, so we need to be very much informed of what's going on. Geraldine, that's a charge to DPSM to ensure that we are aware of what's going on all the time. So thank you so much for that presentation. Thank you very much for that reassurance that we are not alone, that the young ladies who are listening are aware that there are services, there are opportunities for them to learn how to keep themselves safe, and not just young girls, just everybody, knowing how to keep themselves safe online, because this is a space that we occupy very, very often. The Honorable Minister, Dr. Virginia Albert-Poylt, is unable to be with us today, but we would really love to have been here. But we have a very able-bodied permanent secretary who has been in the department for just a year and a half or thereabout, and is already being seen as a powerhouse for gender equality within the region. Pardon? Right. So it is my pleasure and my honor, of course, to welcome the permanent secretary of the Department of Labor and Gender Affairs to deliver the minister's address.
representatives of the Embassy of France, Ms. Sasha Harris, Project Coordination Analyst for the Build Back Equal Project, members of the National Interagency Task Force for Gender-Based Violence Prevention and Response, staff of the Department of Labor and Gender Affairs, the media, good morning. Given that Janie has already indicated I'm speaking on Minister's behalf, everything that I say, please hold Minister accountable. The International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which we observe today, is a very stark reminder of a dark part of our history and our reality. Violence against women, and indeed all forms of violence, continue to be a serious challenge that we face in St. Lucia. Male-to-male violence is a form of gender-based violence. However, male-to-female violence continues to be the most prevalent form of gender-based violence. Today, we join the rest of the world in observing the Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women and the start of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence under the theme, Unite to End Digital Violence Against All Women and Girls. St. Lucia has come a long way in the protection of our citizens from technology-facilitated violence. The Computer Misuse Act, Chapter 8.14 of the Revised Laws of St. Lucia, protects citizens from indecent photographs of children and malicious communications. The Domestic Violence Act, number 11 of 2022, includes cyberstalking in the definition of domestic violence. We are grateful to our international development partners who have continued to explore solutions with us. One of the most groundbreaking initiatives in the region was the Spotlight Initiative, which combined ideas with resources to produce results, some of which are tangible outputs in the form of frameworks and strategies. The impacts of this initiative will no doubt be realized in the coming years. I must therefore pause to thank the European Union for having invested so heavily in gender-based violence in the region. The EU is not the only partner. However, I highlight them here to bring context to the most recent work done in gender-based violence in the Caribbean. The Spotlight Initiative produced a brief entitled Evidence Brief on Working at the Intersections between Violence Against Women and Children in the Caribbean, taking stock of challenges, opportunities, and promising practices. The contents of this brief are as applicable to St. Lucia as to most of the Caribbean islands, and it encapsulates all that must be said on this somber day, and the 16 days of reflection of this observance provides. It is also validating to see that most of the challenges highlighted by this brief have been addressed at some level in St. Lucia. Thanks to the investment of the Government of St. Lucia and partners such as Global Affairs Canada, who fund both the Build Back Equal project and the Blueprints for Gender Equality project, implemented by UN Women and UNFPA and CUSO International, respectively. One challenge highlighted by the brief was the lack of coordination between violence against children and violence against women, including through normative frameworks, policies, programs, and coalitions. In December 2024, St. Lucia launched a national interagency task force for gender-based violence prevention and response, which consists of representatives from the justice, policing, health, and social and education sectors. This task force has been meeting quarterly to plan, monitor, and evaluate coordinated responses to gender-based violence. In the coming months, a new initiative will be launched, a one-stop center, bringing together the services provided by these four sectors under one roof. Another challenge was the tendency for more focus on response than prevention. One feature of St. Lucia's task force is the inclusion of the education sector, which has prevention as its primary GBV focus. Other prevention efforts include the economic empowerment of the youth and owners of micro, small, and medium enterprises. A key challenge identified by the brief was the need to further integrate the frameworks of intersectionality, the life cycle, and the survivor-centered approach. I am happy to report that St. Lucia fully embraces the survivor-centered approach for GBV response. St. Lucia's GBV referral pathway clearly outlines the elements of the survivor-centered approach as an easily accessible reminder for all practitioners in all sectors. The other challenge cited by the report was the use of unclear and inconsistent definitions of violence against women and girls. In recognition of this challenge, the Domestic Violence Act of 2022 thoroughly defines domestic violence. Nonetheless, more work can still be done on public awareness of these definitions. The challenge of limited investment from the education sector in prevention and response to violence against women and violence against children is beginning to be addressed in the inclusion of the education sector in the task force. The final challenge identified in this brief, which sadly remains a pressing challenge for us, is significant data gaps on violence against women and violence against children. Gender-based violence prevalence data is still unavailable for St. Lucia. We recognize the value of this data for decision making, and as such, we are pleased with the shared concern among our development partners, and we remain optimistic that, like the other challenges, this too will be addressed in short order. Of all the strides made by the government of St. Lucia, could not have been possible without our development partners, civil society, and the general public. So we say thanks to the following partners whose investments in the past year have made this work possible. The French Embassy, who funded the Stop Gender-Based Violence project in St. Lucia. Thank you. Global Affairs Canada, through the Build Back Equal and Blueprints projects implemented by UN Women and UNFPA and CUSO International respectively. Thank you. And the Caribbean Development Bank, our partner in the soon-to-be-launched One Stop Center. I am also deeply appreciative of the support of the non-governmental agencies such as the St. Lucia Crisis Center, Do Nation Foundation, Raise Your Voice St. Lucia, Girls of a Feather, Histoire Collective, International Men's Network, and the other non-governmental agencies who have been doing the work on the ground, sometimes with little or no recognition. To the various government departments and civil society organizations who are involved in the coordination efforts, I say thank you. The Ministry of Justice, in particular the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, Family Court, and Forensic Laboratory Services. The Ministry of Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, the Ministry of Education, and the Division of Gender Affairs, the Blind Welfare Association, the National Council for Voluntary Women's Organization, and the National Youth Council. Thank you for your dedication to this work. To the survivors and families of those affected by gender-based violence, I assure you that you are not alone. The government of St. Lucia is committed to protecting your right to live a life free from violence. It is our aim, and collectively we can achieve it. To the perpetrators of violence, there is no excuse. There are ways of addressing your needs, and we are committed to providing services for you as well to return to a productive path. Justice will be served faster and more thoroughly than ever. Enough is enough. We all have a right to live lives free of violence, and you do not have a right to deny anyone of that. Inappropriate behavior is not tolerated and can no longer go unpunished. As you embark on this 16-day reflective period, ensure that it is not in vain, but all your actions lead to concrete results to improve protection and increase awareness, ultimately reducing incidents and ignorance. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Madam P.S. Imbus from the Department of Labor and Gender Affairs, and also to the words to the various persons, including the perpetrators of violence, that this has got to stop, and the government of St. Lucia is no longer going to tolerate it. This is very reassuring, and we thank you very much for the rest of the kind words that you have shared with us on behalf of the minister. We are very honored to have in the room with us partners who have helped us throughout the year in GBV response and GBV prevention initiatives. The Permanent Secretary mentioned that the French Embassy are the partners who have worked with us, and many of you would have been at the launch of that 2 years ago on the Stop GBV project. And so we are very honored to have with us Mrs. Christiane Bourgeois, Bourgeois, who is representing the French Embassy to start off or to kick off the solidarity messages. So welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph. Please allow me to adopt the protocol already established. I see a lot of people that we already know, thanks to this project, Stop Gender-Based Violence, that we led with the Department of Gender. It took the occasion on behalf of Her Excellency Marie-Noëlle Duris, our new ambassador. She's a woman. So we are in a concrete feminist diplomacy at the French Embassy. Thank you for your support and for inviting us to this launch. It's a little emotional to me, because as our project is coming in to its end, we can either recognize all that has already been done, but also, or either just recognize that there is so much to do, and especially about the new threats against women, that are the conflict situation in the world, and of course the digital space that can become a very violent space for women if you don't know how to use it and how to sensitize it. So thank you for that. The project is on its end, but we are committed to continue to cooperate and to collaborate with all the civil society organizations and also with the, of course, the government of St. Lucia. I wanted in this special day to just let you know that the fight against gender-based violence is a priority of feminist diplomacy promoted by France. The elimination of all forms of gender-based violence against women and girls is one of the 5 pillars of France's international strategy for feminist diplomacy, coming from 2025 to 2030. So we'll have a lot to share together. We also, Mrs. Harris, very happy to see you. We exchange a lot, but we never had the occasion to do on concrete action. And with this strategy, we will have food to think and to act. This strategy reaffirms France's commitment to protect and promote the rights of women and girls everywhere, and to eradicate all forms of gender-based violence, which is an essential condition for development, building inclusive society, and sustainable peace. And at the 4th Ministerial Conference of the Ministerial Conference of Feminist Diplomacy that has been hosted in France in last 22nd and 23rd October, 31 states signed a political declaration recalling their commitment to gender equality and against gender-based violence, particularly in conflicts situation and in the digital space, as I said. And I want to let you know that we are going on a very convergent direction with you, because France is currently working on its 4th National Action Plan for the implementation of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. And it will continue to be built around the pillar that I talked about: preventing violence, promoting the agenda, and fighting impunity. But also it will increase attention to new issues such as digital and artificial intelligence and climate change, and the effect on climate change on women and girls. So we want to promote and to strengthen cooperation. That's why at the international level, France promotes the universal ratification of the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women, which is the Istanbul Convention. At the European level, we support the transposition of a directive, a European directive, to combat violence against women and domestic violence. It's been adopted in 2024 by member states. And also, we support civil society. You are the key actors against for the fight against violence. We have a fund for support to feminism organization, FSOF, and with this fund, through this fund, France supports more than 1,400 civil society organizations in 75 countries. So there are, a window of opportunity. In particular, actions to prevent, to protect, and support victims, to support survivors. And for example, in 2025, the call for project to strengthen the capacities of the feminist organization was launched, and the winning consumption will be soon announced by the end of the year. So we will have some connection with Caribbean countries, especially, who apply for this fund. We also mobilized, France also mobilized against gender-based violence online and facilitated by technology through the recognition of what you said. We recognize online or technology-facilitated violence, and we recognize that this violence is an integral part of gender-based violence. So we've been an active member of the Global Partnership for Action Against Gender-Based Harassment and Abuse Online that promote an ambitious language and goals to prioritize, understand, prevent and address gender-based violence facilitated by technology. I will not be too long, but I wanted just to tell you that we are on the same direction, on the same pathway, and I am very impressed and amazed to see what has already been done recently to address this issue along with us. I would like to finish to focus on the evolution of the law. You talked about the Domestic Violence Act. We are in the same pathway, and in October, recently, 29th October, the French Parliament definitively approved the law amending the criminal definition of rape and sexual assault. This reform explicitly enriches in the penal code the notion of non-consent of victims of sexual assault to qualify rape and other sexual assault in order to better protect them. Let's recognize that in 2025, 60% of countries do not have a rape law based on the principle of consent. So it's an ongoing fight, I should say. And since 2018 in France, a law on domestic violence allows the filing of complaints online and the placement under electronic surveillance and the eviction of the perpetrator of domestic violence. This is something that you have in mind and it's ongoing. And in 2024, the Act of June established an immediate protection order for the victim of domestic violence and his children. So let's enjoy this moment together. Let's see that we all have the same vision. Let's recognize that the cooperation that we have is ongoing and is still alive. And what I should say is it's ensemble nous plus fort. So, à nous continuer. Faites ça ensemble. Let's continue together. United, we are stronger. And I hope a very good success to the 16th day. And of course, you will have us every time with you to participate and to make it a common success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Christian Bourgeois. And one thing that was very clear from what Mrs. Bourgeois indicated was that the civil society actors on the ground are the ones who are driving the work. This is a recognition we have, and there are many persons in the room who represent civil society. I just want us to acknowledge the work that they've been doing. Our next speaker is from civil society, from the St. Lucia Crisis Center, one of the leading agencies over the years, providing services for domestic violence, etc. So, Ms. Blanche Isidore.
Thank you. As I adopt the protocol that has been established, gender-based violence is a significant and serious issue affecting individuals globally. The high prevalence of intimate partner and gender-based violence exacerbates the alarming increase in violence. Vulnerable women, girls, and LGBTQ individuals are unequally impacted by this profound human rights violation. Stigma and cultural attitudes continue to silence survivors, contributing to the lack of support. Despite numerous successes and increased awareness, GBV has not been eliminated. Non-violence is a powerful and just a weapon which cuts without wounding and enables the man or woman who yields. It is a sword that heals. Together we can stop the violence. Together, overall, we can stop domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Isidore, for the solidarity message. I know that most times when you look at your programs, you see vote of thanks after the last thing, right? And then you do the last thing, and then you have refreshments. You do your last thing, the vote of thanks, and then you have refreshments. There's a slight difference with this particular program because the last thing that we wanted to do before the vote of thanks, which was moved underneath, is downstairs. So we're going to take the vote of thanks upstairs and then move to the last thing, which is the gesture, which I will have to tell you about after the vote of thanks. So thank you very much. At this time, it is my pleasure to call one of the leading members of our National Interagency Task Force for GBV Prevention and Response, Mr. Hannah Henry, who is also the Director of Financial.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Representatives of the Embassy of France, Ms. Sasha Harris, Project Coordinator, Project Coordination Analyst of the Build Back Equal Project, members of the National Interagency Task Force for Gender-Based Violence and Prevention. Good morning. Oh dear, I'm causing a ruckus on the video. Okay, I think we got it. Yes, there we go. Alright. I wish to extend our deepest gratitude to all of you for being here today as we launch the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Your presence is a testament to our shared commitment to a future where every woman and girl can live in safety and dignity. This year, the global campaign focuses on the theme, Unite to End Digital Violence Against All Women and Girls. This theme is a powerful and necessary reminder that the violence women face is not confined to physical spaces. It has moved into the digital realm, impacting their mental health, well-being, and ability to participate fully in public life. To our esteemed partners, organizers, and advocates, thank you. I wish to recognize and acknowledge the management and staff of the Division of Gender Affairs, the National Interagency Task Force, the French Embassy, Global Affairs Canada, UN Women, CUSO International, and the Caribbean Development Bank. Your work, both online and offline, is the bedrock of this movement. To the survivors who have bravely shared their stories, your courage is an inspiration, and your voices are the most powerful call for us to act. Let us use these 16 days to transform our commitment into tangible action. Let us work together to ensure that our digital spaces are not zones of fear, but platforms of respect and empowerment. Together, united in this cause, we can break the cycle of violence and build a world that is safe, equitable, and just for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Fernanda Henry. So thank you to the thankful to see her, right? So we have heard a lot today, and we remember that we're here because some people have actually died. We are here because some people are still suffering. We are here because violence continues to affect people's disproportionately. So we are going to, in our final act, do a gesture in recognition of those who have fallen, right? Those who have been victims, unfortunately, of gender-based violence of any form. And I'm sure, as I see that, I think of a few persons, just open the mind. Little ones, older ones, middle-aged ones. So 15 of us here will be given candles, not those that can clean, but candles. And we're going to be going downstairs on the ground floor to place them in an area that has already been designated for them. There's a 16th candle, and that 16th candle will be placed by the Honorable Dr. Virginia Albert at some point in time during the 16 days of activism. But 15 will be placed today. So, just like to call on Queenette and Sabrina, the members of the staff of the Division of Gender Affairs, to just step outside and hand the persons who's coming outside their little, and show them how to operate the candles. Permanent Secretary, P.S. Imbers, Mrs. Christiane Bourgeois, Christine Smith, Sasha Harris, Shahini Dravidas, Barry Innocent,